see this here. Give it a couple minutes to fill up. Got the live session going here. How are we doing today? We're about to go after it today. Today we're talking about association. Alright, let's give this a couple more minutes because I said it'd start at 3. Cool. We keep going. Perfect. All right. Now, today we're going to talk about association, right? Before we start off with association, right, I'm going to give you guys a quick little definition, right? Because we have to talk about the brain if we're going to talk about association, because association has to do with how you feel related to the things around you and how we form and build our ego, right? So, with this being said, the first thing that we have to talk about is perceptual grouping, right? Perceptual grouping is something that the human brain uses. Hey Claire, what's going on? So perceptual grouping is something that the human brain uses to form your perception and build it based on global scenarios and things like that that are consistently moving around you. So when I talk about association, right, and we're talking about how I associate with the world, you have to remember that a lot more things go into how you associate with other things. And also that your brain is triggered to group, right? So you're always trying to group and stereotype things. So this is how your brain is able and allowed to make these distinguishing features between you and other things, right? Or between that group and another. Now, how does this affect who we are today? Now, the problem is that in the world that we live in, right? We live in a structured and manufactured society. So when I say this is that I mean the fact that nothing is real, right? It was all made from real stuff, right? But nothing in its actuality is true, right? And that's why I wore this today, right? I wore the sweatshirt today because this was a part of my life where I was associating, right? All these different things in everybody's life, you're associating with certain things that you pull close to you. However, in society today, it's a little bit different when it comes to the thought of knowing yourself, right? How well do I know myself and know thyself? That is where we find a weird twist in the things that are going on, right? So, first, what is the ego, right? Is the ego a good thing? Is the ego a bad thing, right? And that question strictly depends on where you build your ego, right? Because the definition of an ego and what it means is it's a place where you hold all of your self-esteem, right? And the things, so the thing that boosts you morally, the things that you stand behind, that is considered your ego. True? True, right? So, depending on what you associate with, right? And the way that you group things, you start to now build an ego. So, ego isn't essentially a bad thing depending on what you use to build your ego, what you're associating with to create your ego. The problem is that we live in a realm, in a world that's manufactured, right? So, when we even talk about TV, we talk about celebrities, we talk about all of these different characters, right, that are constantly surrounding us. This is where we start to formulate our associations. So if everything I see are things being acted out, right? Things that are superficial, right? Things that are imitating organic things, my development of ego, right, becomes an association with things that aren't real. Now, let me show you guys how this happens. So, everything that you view and you watch is considered your reality, right? You make it real because when you put your attention to something, that makes it real. So, when I say that, it's very intense. So, if we understand quantum physics, right? Quantum physics and a lot of the things that they're talking about say that depending on if I'm viewing the outcome or not, the outcome changes. So the things that I draw my attention to, right, become my reality, literally. So when we talk about these certain things and we look at how we are developing our ego, how we are associating with things, we have to realize that there are a lot more things that come into play when we are doing this, right? And that is where we have to start to define ourselves. Know thyself. There's a reason that there's a big, big stick over here for know thyself, right? And there's also a big reason that there are so many things that have like a cultish type following, right? And cult, we use cult and occult in a bad way, right? If everyone's going to Country Fest and they're all dressing the same way, they're a part of a cult, right? They're dressing, they're sharing similar ideals and then going to a group to express it, right? No one wants to believe they're in a cult, right? But they are. Because everyone, in a sense, there's cult-like qualities. That's how our society was built, right? So in this video, I'm gonna try and hope that I can break down different layers of association because in today's society we have a lot of things that we are associating ourselves with, right? Whether it's nationalism, religion, social archetypes, jobs, like media, all of these different things. So when you really break it down, right, we associate ourselves with things that are trying to give us our reality. Now, the problem with this is, right? The big problem with this and the crux, right, to all of these things, because essentially religion is great, right? If we look at religion for what it is, it's a beautiful thing. Just like if you look at nationalism in like its purest sense, it should be a good thing, right? Now, but when we start to have agendas within society, when we start to have infrastructure within society and things of this nature, built on certain ideals, right? They're dependent on your association with certain motifs, with certain things. Now, because of this, there's problems that come up, right? Problems come up from your association and how you associate with stuff. Now, let me go into my life and I'll help you guys through me because I'm at a point now where I was able to really sit down and figure this out in a sense. It's taken me a long time to get to the point where I can realize that a lot of the things I was associating with aren't really me. And it took even a longer time to even try and break those things down and get to the point where, boom, now I'm all set, right? Where I've figured certain things out and I've been able to handle certain emotions, certain feelings, certain lusts, because like that was something that was a big issue too. So when we go through all of these different levels and we move through all these different things, we can start to break down the association. Now, why did I wear this? Because I went to school and I was a scholarship basketball player at one point, right? And basketball was something that I associated with. It was part of my reality. Now, what did that do? What does that mean? That means that I, as Matt Barboza, I, as myself, right, began to project my reality into the idea of being a basketball player. However, once I projected my reality into it, right, just like your vision comes in and you push it back out. It was pushing something back out to me, right? So, what are some of the things that we associate with basketball players, right? Partiers, get around, they're going out, they're doing their thing. So when you are conditioning yourself into a reality, right, you are starting to make that reality yours. So everything that you push towards in it and you speak towards in it and you manifest within that reality that reality is going to give you something back, right? Now with it, you have to choice to always look at these things and either take it or leave it, right? Now, where does everything else bump in? Where do all the other things bump in, right? So now we'll take it a step further. I would associate myself as an avid hip hop R&B listen toer, right? I was a fan of these things, a fan. So in my earbuds all the time were some kind of hip hop, some kind of rap, some kind of R&B, a lot of music all the time, right? Because growing up, when you watch all of these different things that break down, you start to associate yourself, right, with this music. Music is told that it's your savior. Music calms you down. Music does this. Music, blah, blah. So now we're in a point where, right, all of us are constantly listening to music, constantly doing these things to help to associate ourselves. Now, with that being said, why do you think so many people in America smoke weed? Why? Because we didn't find out about the medicinal qualities to weed till recently, right? So why are so many people smoking? Because they've been associating with music that smokes, right? Why are so many people selling drugs? Because they associate with music that sells drugs. Why are people in jail? Because they associate with music that projects the actions that follow. Why is it that every single time someone goes to a country concert, they dress up in the way they do? Because the music projected certain things into them. So even if I'm not from the country, I could be from the city. When I go to a country concert, sir, I'm gonna try and associate myself with the culture, right? I'm gonna try and blend in. I wanna be like I have seen the reality of a country concert to be. So I'm gonna dress like that, right? Or if I'm going to a hip hop concert, I'm gonna dress like that. Or if I go to the gym, I'm gonna dress like this, right? So we have built in all of these stereotypes into society so that when we are going into any kind of field, whether it's professionally, whether it's socially, all these things that we have set norms, right? A set norm. But the problem with these norms, the problem with this association, the problem with these things, it always comes with a price tag, right? And you're never good enough in your own skin. You're never good enough in your own skin. Like for me, I come on here, right? And I give you guys knowledge, right? My knowledge, because some people don't even like my knowledge, right? But I come on here and I try and give you guys things that I learned so that you might not have as hard of a time as I did trying to figure all this stuff out. Because honestly, finding this stuff out and even getting to a point where I'm feeling comfortable speaking about it in like a big public forum like this takes a lot for me, right? But for me to get here, I know how hard it was, right? And how I was still messing up, how I still was having trouble associating with things, how I was still lusting after things. I was still, and it took till like a time where the lesson came up and I sat there and I was laying there and I was like, damn, I gotta figure this out, right? I gotta stop all of it. I gotta stop everything. And I gotta figure things out because here I am with all this knowledge. Here I am reading all these books, right? Here I am doing all these talks. Here I am watching these lectures. Here I am meeting with these mentors. But I wasn't putting everything into action the way I should have been, right? Because the only way I could get the wisdom from the knowledge is by putting it into action. So this is my attempt to put this stuff in action and show you guys how it works. Because some of this stuff is cool and some of this stuff will allow you and actually free you. Like I become more free to a point where I'll come on here and I can say whatever I think is necessary for you guys. I'll give you guys anything that I believe. And some people really don't like it because when you look at it, a lot of these feelings I have, and I know because I get inboxes and things like that, are a lot of feelings that people have, but they're afraid to show in public, or they try and keep hidden, right? Because they're nervous. Because we have this problem with association, we have a problem with stereotyping, we have a problem with all of these things. Because based on the infrastructure of our society, there's set pegs in so that people don't act certain ways. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about the people who are going out and committing harm to others. That is never okay, right? I'm not speaking of the people who are doing things in ill will towards any other person. Those aren't the people that you need to be dealing with. Those aren't the people to talk to. Those aren't the people that I'm talking to, right? I'm talking to the people who are genuinely trying to figure things out and look at things in an objective light. Because we have to look at things objectively more. We are so subjective, right? So it makes it hard for us to then step back away from these belief systems that we create, these things that we're doing. Because essentially, I put so much emotion into these things that are frivolous, right? Let me give you an example. Like the idea of me being a basketball player. I stopped playing basketball now for, I think I played one time this year so far, and then before that, I didn't play since like August. So I've played basketball one time maybe in the last 10 months, 11 months, and I feel better than ever. But that was hard for me, right? Because one, you start to realize that a lot of your friend groups are only based on your association with certain things. So a friend who maybe I met through basketball, I met at a court, or I always go play basketball with, I might lose that friend based on my association with that action, right? Because a lot of the times friendships are built upon these certain type of actions. Now, that's just, we're talking about mutual, like you have to have mutual things involved in friendship and things of that nature. Oh, of course, right? When I said you're always supposed to have mutual things with your friends, however, what are those mutual aspects? What are those things that group you guys together? What are those buddy system type of notions? What are they? And that's where we have to look a little bit further. We have to dive in a little bit deeper. Now we're going to be able to focus and pull out what comes next to this. So if I'm always associating as far as activity, where else do you think where I'm associating myself due to activity? Your jobs, right? So based on your job, you start to associate yourself with certain things, right? So if I'm a lawyer, right, and I call myself a lawyer, and that's how I present myself, I'm developing my ego around the fact that I'm a lawyer. So with that being said, there are certain things that lawyers do. I was working at the district attorney's office for a while, right? So I was around lawyers all the time. And there's a certain personality similarity between most lawyers, right? Because it's part of the culture, it's part of the association, it's part of the reality, right? Once I start to adapt that reality, there are certain things and certain moves, there are certain people I watch, there are certain things that stick out to me. So now I'm associating, right? Just like when I wanted to play basketball. I would watch athletes and I'd associate. I'd watch movies about athletes, I'd associate. I'd do anything I could. I'd play video games to associate. I would do anything I could to associate that reality because I wanted to make that reality mine. Now, what you find now is that the problem is that these activities are now being attached to lifestyles. Again, activities nowadays are being attached to lifestyles because we are branding, right? So I am branding things. So now it's not enough that you play basketball. Now you have to encompass a basketball lifestyle. You have to develop an ego in basketball. You have to start dressing a certain way. How many people wear ankle high Nike dry fits just because they're a basketball player, right? How many people slam the top of doorknobs just because they're a basketball player? How many people are out there just trying to get it just because they are basketball players, right? So we look at certain breakdowns here, and again, this isn't me talking crap about basketball players. Again, I was a basketball player. I did all of this stuff. I'm just speaking from my frame of reference. I'm trying to show you guys with my life, right? Some of the places that I went wrong. Because again, I'm not perfect. I'm still not perfect. Jesus says, "Be ye perfect." Let me try, right? And the only way I can try is to come here and cast demons, right? Essentially, because when we talk about demons, when we talk about God and the devil, when we talk about this duality, is it funny that we all have a weird duality within ourselves? Like deep inside of us, we all have a duality. We all have a good voice, we all have a bad voice. We have a right and a left shoulder. We have all of these things. Your angel and your demon, right? Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. All of these stories are based on the idea of duality, but the more we project duality outside of us, instead of internalizing duality and trying to see it within us, they're beating us. Because the problem now, right, is that you are your reality, right? So my mind is a magnet. My life, I am a magnet, right? Just like you guys are a magnet, right? You're a magnet to what you want, your reality. Because once you make it yours and you make action towards it, you start to attract things towards you. And this is where I had my trouble. This is where I fell through. This is where I was trying to walk this way. My thoughts weren't pure. So now I'm bringing a reality towards me that's not fully pure, right? Because I still I'm sorry, because I still hadn't chopped up certain things, right? I still haven't figured it out. I'm still even in the process of growing. So even though I'm still in the process of growth, that means that I still haven't figured certain things out yet, but I have certain things that I've got to grasp on a little bit here, right? This isn't to say that every single person out there is not doing perfectly fine in their walk of life. This is strictly to trigger some thoughts, right? So you can sit back and think objectively for a second why you do things, right? Because the biggest thing is that most of us sit down and we don't understand why we do things. And when we do that, we become unconscious observers, right? The last thing we want is to be unconscious observers because we see how that works. Because you always need someone. I always need something when I become an unconscious observer. But when I become a conscious observer, I then can step back and start to view these things that I hold true. I can look at my values. Oh, wow. And now I can start to pick up on certain things that are going on, right? So I was still lusting, right? I was still lusting to about, hmm, I would say that within the last year, right, I've had times where I've been able to be good. I've had times where I've had celibacy streaks. I'm able to hold strong. But then you have times you fall off, right? And you make a mistake, or you do something like that. Or I wasn't drinking for a while. Like I've been not drinking for a while. Now I'm on like what 6 months off, 6 months without any drinks. Not that I was drinking like I was an alcoholic, but I was 6 months without drinking now. Even before I had like a beer or something like that. Then before that it was probably like 4 or 5, right? That's considered a loss there for me because why do I need to drink, right? Because when I look at certain things, right, in my life, because I weigh things according to my perspective on life now. My perspective on life comes from a different place than some of you guys because I have been afforded the opportunity to get certain pieces of information, right? Now, with that being said, life is experience, right? You are built and sent here to experience life, literally. Because if you weren't here to experience life, life wouldn't be the way it is. You wouldn't be walking around life. You wouldn't have so much encounter in life if you weren't meant to experience, right? So life is always trying to help you experience things that are going on in your mind. The problem is if you don't understand what that is, why that comes that way, you begin to bring to you that because we know the earth, there's biomagnetism. We know this is true, right? Again, do the research on your own. Go on my channel. Again, go on my channel and look up my thing. My link is right in my bio. Even if you don't want to subscribe, which I hope you guys do, but even if you don't want to do it, go into my channel and go onto my playlist, right? You can find it all in there. All the information is there for you if you want it, right? And some of you guys do want it, and that's why I put it there, right? So who I am, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do is all based on what I associate with. So how does consciousness come into this? So consciousness is your ability to broaden your view, broaden your perspective. I can make it this big now, right? So the more I broaden my perspective, right, the more things I can associate with, literally. So now when I do this, when I start associating with more things, right, and I start bringing more things into my consciousness, more things into my awareness, I start to find that a lot of these things aren't so separate from me. Hmm, Like how, man? Well, first of all, if we look at just the genetic coding of human, we look at the pieces, A, C's, T's, and G's, right? We look at those four pieces. Those four pieces are expressed in every other thing in this world. Every other thing. Everything is expressed through A, C's, T's, and G's, essentially. Because everything has a genetic code. All matter gets broken all the way down to a sense. So you can be every single animal out here. You can be everything because it's all breaking down to the same mathematical coding. Because we know nature, if we study the Fibonacci numbers, the Fibonacci ratio, nature happens in numbers, right? Nature happens in mathematics. That's why all major science, in order for it to really be proven, right, you have to have the physicists come in and then make it cool. Like the big math people have to come in and prove it. Because if they don't prove it, if they don't say it's right, if it doesn't work mathematically, then that's the problem. That's why we have such a trouble with creation right now. Because the way that we advanced, how quickly we did, doesn't mathematically make sense. The percentages of that happening are so crazy, it's weird. That's why we have so many people within this argument, left, right, aliens, because the mathematics just don't make sense. So people don't know how it's happening. So now you open the floor for these arguments. Now you do all this. But, which goes to my next point, right? If I'm living in a certain consciousness, so I know certain things are in my realm, and if I'm someone who's not trying to broaden my consciousness, right, certain things are going to seem far out to me, right? So if I'm an American and I believe in America, I believe everyone who's against America is against me, and that's how I'm going to look at it. I will never be able to see someone as the same as me because my values already place a discrepancy. How is that being said? Well, whenever you look at someone living in the jungle, right? Whenever you look at someone like an indigenous tribe, you think of them as savages, right? However, we have people killing people over Jordans on the street. Now, let's think about a Jordan for a second. Air Jordans. Jordans only take about what, $10 to $20 to manufacture. So we pay $250 for them because we're associating with the brand, right? So now I pay $250 for these shoes. Their hard cost is $20, right? And so I'm really killing someone for $20. But because my perception on this, my association with Jordan brand is so high, I think that it's worth more than a human life. Now, where am I? Now you see where society starts to crumble. Now you see where we start to fall. Because our materialism and our association with materialism, our association with brands, our association with these things outside of us, these things that don't really matter to our realm, right, are starting to destroy what makes us human, are starting to destroy what makes us pure, are starting to destroy these things about my need to think of myself as a basketball player, start to break down certain morals and principles within my life. My need to feel whole, to feel like you have a companion, to feel a partner, makes you break down certain things in your life, makes you look at things a certain way, makes you feel worried, nervous, scared, fearful. No, no, that's bad association, right? No association, no thing that you place your ego on should ever make you feel nothing less than great because that's where you pull your strength from. So if I'm not pulling my self-esteem from a good place, I got a bad ego. Essentially, my ego is messed up. It needs to be repaired. Right? So where are we? What are we doing in society? What are these things that we are affirming and putting into our reality? And what are they doing for us? How are they making me a better person? Those are the questions that we have to start to ask ourselves. Because once we can sit back and start to objectively ask ourselves these questions, we can start to make changes. Once I step back and start to look at how things break down, I can start to see the pattern. Because everything is mathematics. Nature is mathematics. Sacred geometry teaches us that nature is mathematics. Fibonacci teaches us that nature is mathematics. So the world is mathematics. So in a sense, everything is calculated. So if everything is calculated, everything is set. in a certain way. There's ways to do things. There's ways to make things happen. There's ways to view yourself, right? But it's about how you do it. It's about what you associate with that will allow you to build your ego in a certain way. So if I'm associating myself in a way that is forward, and I'm associating with things that allow me to have principles, I'm associating with things that allow me to develop my morals, I'm associating with things that allow me to associate with my higher self, not the lower self. The lower self has to do with desire, has to do with survival, has to do with feeling content, all of these things. The higher self has to do with the well-being of all, has to do with I am everything. I am all things because I am in all things, because all things are inside of me, because literally we're made of the same puzzle pieces. So when I start to think that way, then no one is different than me. Then I love everyone and I love myself. Because when you have a partner and you look at them, you tell them you love them, you only love them because they're a reflection of you. Because there's something about them in you that you love. That's why you go for them. That's why you find and seek them out over anyone else. Because you're inside of them. They're a reflection of you. There's no better feeling than meeting someone who has the same thoughts as you, right? When someone's speaking and they're speaking your mind, you're like, oh my God, bro, this is a connection here. That's an association, right? But the problem is that we don't associate with ourselves for the right reason, which is why I sound weird to people. People don't associate with me because of their knowledge base. They don't associate with me because of this. If you're associating with me because of the way I look, there's gonna be problems. I mean, I sold and got rid of all my clothes. I have 4 outfits. I have 5 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, 3 pairs of shorts. What else do I need? What else do I need? Honestly, what else do we need in this life? Why do I have so much stuff? We know that when we die, it doesn't come with us. So why am I building? Why am I building so much? Why am I stressing? Why do we stress so much about these little things? Right? It's because we're associating ourselves. We're making our reality base a lifestyle instead of making our reality base ourselves. Because once my reality base is based in knowledge of myself, knowledge of things, knowledge of my consciousness, then I can start to detach myself from things. I can detach from the Jordans. I can detach from the music. I can detach. Then once I start to detach and formulate myself, now I can create my way. Now I can create my thing here because I'm not worried about what happens when I disassociate. What happens if people think I'm weird? What happens if people think I'm crazy? What's happening when people think I'm wrong? Right? All these little things, you stop caring because I know why I think this is right because I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm not doing this for, like, you see how many people will watch these videos. You could check my videos on the YouTube channel. I don't care who sees this. I don't care if anyone comments. I don't care if anyone sends me messages. All that. I am doing this strictly because I know that I have certain things that I've been looking into. I have certain knowledges that I've been looking into. And unless I come out here and tell you guys what's good with them, I'll just be doing what everyone else has been doing, right? Because what's writing a book? Writing a book is just getting information and only hiding it from the privileged people who can give you the money for it. So instead of me writing a book, why wouldn't I just come out here and give you that knowledge, right? Instead of you having to go to a nutritionist, why not me just tell you some things that are healthy for you so you can go out and do it yourself? Because you're being oppressed again by having to go to a nutritionist to be healthy. You're being oppressed again by having to always go to a doctor to be healthy. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying doctors are bad. I'm not saying that if you're really sick, don't go to a doctor. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that first, check yourself, right? If you're not feeling well for a few days in a row, check yourself. What am I eating here? What am I doing here? What's life? What am I doing? How can I fix this? Because there's always a sense of what is? What is this? Are these things good? Are these things right? Right? We have all of these certain things in our lifestyle. We have certain things when we look around that are accepted, but we don't really know if we accept them or not. We just crowd mentality. We surf, right? We get the wave and then we follow the wave. No, slow down. Slow down. We have plenty of amount of time. I'm thankful that I had someone who came in and sparked me and gave me that peace. So I'm gonna speak now. I was just typing. I was just going on Twitter. But once when I was on Twitter, I wasn't always living up to the things I was saying because I was just writing it. But now it's here. You see me telling you, right? So if you see me not living up to certain things, right? That's on me. If I see me not living up to things, that's me, right? Because I'm creating my ego now. This is creation of the ego. You're seeing me create the ego. So if I'm not living up to this, you'll know not to fuck with me, right? Because now that I've stapled it and this is where I'm at, right? This is me drawing my line. Here I am. Here are the things that I see. Here are the things I notice. Boom. Here's what I feel about this. You can see me define my line, in a sense. Does that mean that I'm not available to grow from here? Does that mean that in a year, some of these things might not shift just a little bit? They might, right? Because you're always learning. Life is always giving you something to teach you, no matter what. Even when you feel like you're at a point where things are going well, or you're at a point where something is going to happen, or you're at a point, well, life will give you something to test you. Like, are you really about that life? Are you sure about that? And when that happens, that's when you have to step up to the table. Because I've noticed that in life, there's been a few things that have come around the corner on me, right? There's a few times where there are things that I should have learned from, and I took a step back because instead of really boom breaking through and getting that knowledge and going with that gut feeling, you oh no, then you succumb, and that's okay because this is hard. Life is always testing you for a reason, right? Because it's trying to get you to learn the lessons you need to, as much as you can. Learn these lessons. Learn these lessons. Learn them, right? So it's going to come at you in many different ways. They're going to come at you in many different forms because you're a magnet, right? So whatever you're projecting out, you're putting back in. That's why I say, if you don't mess with me, don't come on my media and start talking about how I view things. Go to your own media. Because if you're going to project anger and project your negative thoughts onto me, you're only going to bring negative thoughts onto yourself, right? You hear all this information I'm giving you, and if I'm giving you all this information, the only thing you could start talking about is that I look like I've lost weight. You've lost, you've missed, right? You've missed in your association, you've missed out on what the big picture is, right? Because that's a facadal thing. Now we're talking about associating with facades because we get this because we're in a superficial environment, right? I'm in a superficial environment, so I was always associating myself with fake things. So all I was gonna be is fake at the end of the day until you step back and then start to define yourself in different ways. Start to read more, expand your consciousness. Expand your consciousness. Because once I understand everything is me, I can associate with anything. I become fluid. The thought of who I am could be anything. Because we are that powerful in your creation. Now, I'm not saying to be scatterbrained, but be open, your perspective be open to things, open to beauty, right? How many of us are afraid of actually achieving our life goal because we're afraid of being who we want to be, right? Some of us wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and go, I don't want to put any makeup on today. And then all of a sudden you put makeup on. Why? Because you're afraid of what people will think once you finally get out there. You don't have to make up for anything, right? You're not making up for anything. You're beautiful. Once we stop that, we understand, right? Man, once you understand that you don't got to be in the gym all the time, right? You don't got to be doing mad push-ups. You don't got to be doing all this stuff past just being healthy if you don't want to. You don't have to do that so you can associate with the lifestyle. Oh, I want to be that fit life, right? Because how many people, once they start going to the gym, post a picture and say fit life? Because they want to they want to be associated with that. They want to be that. What I'm saying is you can be that all you want. You don't have to associate. You don't have to try so hard. No one has to go out of their way to do these things. You just have to be real to yourself. And when you're real to yourself, everything will come. But when you try and force it and when you go after these things that when you really think about it don't make so much sense, you have to step back, right? Because is are these activities helping you as a person? And that's what we have to sit back and think. Is having sex making me better as a person all the time? Is me lusting making me better as a person? Is me like going out there and trying to bench press 300 pounds? Is that making me better as a person? Once I put that barbell back, do I still got problems that I gotta fix? Yeah, right? Once that burger feels good and you want to associate with eating all this good food, that's why we spend so much time lusting after restaurants, right? Think about it. How many times do you have, like, I have conversation with people sometimes. I can't talk with people about certain things because I don't care about food. That's a problem. That makes me not be able to talk to a lot of people. Because how many times do you have conversation with people over food? Right? How many people talk about what they had for lunch today? How many people talk about what they had for breakfast, what they had for dinner over the weekend? Blah, blah, blah. Well, if you're always associating yourself with that ability to go eat food, when that plate's gone and and it feels so good, you still have back to your problems. And that's where we're at. That's why we don't meditate. That's why we don't stop and sit in a room of quiet. Has anyone ever just sat in a room in silence? I went out when I was in California. I went out into nature for 2 days and just chilled and just was with myself in the quiet. And that makes you think a lot. And when you start thinking critically about yourself, you start to come face to face with your demons. You get to see the devil in you. Because essentially, we all have the devil within us, in a sense. And we all have Christ within us. We all have God within us. It's a duality because we live in duality. There's no other way to look at it. You live consciously in a state of duality, of dualness, of who am I, right? Am I this or am I this? Because when you come to certain parts in your life, there's always two types of things and feelings that are pulling you. You have one feeling that's always pulling you to this higher self. Do this thing that is like people would think is outlandish if they saw you do it, right? That thought where you're the messiah complex. But then you have that other thought that tells you you're nothing, to settle, to just do these. Now I'm not saying to if your idea is that I can jump out of my window and fly, like that you should go do that. No, I'm saying that every single idea, right? The idea of a computer was illogical and irrational to people at some point, right? Everything was irrational at some point to think about anything. Just thinking about putting on clothes was irrational for some, like was irrational at some point. But then someone made it real. Someone manifested it. It came from someone's mind into action. Now, when I talk about clothes, I'm not really a fan of this stuff, right? If I could be out there just walking around in shorts all day, I'd be cool. Or just in my skips, I'd be even happier, right? Because I'm okay with that. I don't care what I look like. If I go out there, I don't care. Trust me. With the amount of people that I've had that tell me that I look too skinny lately, oh, but they don't know, right? They don't know how sick I was getting from trying to eat so much so I could be jacked. Because this is my natural body. This is me naturally. So people can't accept me naturally, but they could accept me when I was overeating, overlifting to do all this to be so big where I was having stomach problems. I was having all of these digestive issues. I was having issues, right? But now everyone tells me I look sick when I don't have digestive issues like that. But when I was sick, everyone was telling me it was good. Oh, it's good, Matt. Your body looks great. Oh, you look strong. Oh my God. Da, da, da. But then the second I start getting skinny and being healthy and being comfortable with actually my body, the way it was made to be if I just ate and lived, right? The way it was made to be if I just ate and lived. Everyone's got a problem now, right? There's something wrong with me now, right? We gotta think about these things. We gotta sit back and go, yo, is that right? No, is that right? Is this right? No. You are perfect the way you are. Literally, you were made that way. So who am I to change the way I was made? Literally, I was made to be this way. We all, no matter what you say, no matter what it is that you believe in, if you believe in God, you believe in science, you believe anything, all of these different factors came together to make you exactly who you are. So who are you to always go against that notion? Simply. So why am I doing things to make myself look different all the time? Like I start growing my beard. What's the first thing people start doing? You look like a terrorist. You look like, well, if I wasn't supposed to have facial hair, right? And I didn't need this beard, why the freak does it grow? Right? If when I grow out my hair, if it doesn't start locking up and getting curly like this, why would my hair keep growing? If I never cut my hair, how long would it grow? Why then? Why does it keep growing? You look out in nature, everything is made in nature for a purpose. Everything. Every animal has everything going on with it for a purpose. So, if everything in nature does certain things for a purpose, who am I to deny that? Now, I gotta sit back. That's why when people start eating plant-based diets, they grow their shit out. Because you're eating nature now. Now you're on a different mindset, right? When you're eating carcasses, when you're eating all this different stuff, you're you're going into a mindset, right? Because now I have to understand and rationalize, okay, I want to go to Burger King. You have to actually rationalize going to Burger King because we know fast food is bad. We know it's bad. We know there's nothing good that is ever comes from fast food. But what do? We have to rationalize it now. I have to say, well, this is bad, but it tastes good. But I had a stressful day, and like a burger and fries would make me feel so good. We have to rationalize in order to do these things instead of being able to be objective. And we live in subjectivity right now. That's why if I come at people and I say things, they're like that's wrong. I say, well, what are your facts? They go, well, growing up, I was. No, no, no. That's not how it works. Where are your facts? Where do your facts come from? Who are the people who looked into this before you? Where is your evidence that this works? Because if it was up to me, if I looked at every single all these different everyone's eating meat, right? All these people are eating meat, but we're in war. We're in nuclear war all over. Meat is one of the hot like 92% of the country eats meat. There's only 8% vegans out here. Vegans, like vegetarians, fruitarians, they only make up like 8 to 12% of the country. So that's the other 92 to 88% of the country eat meat. I'm not the one who's involved. Like, people who eat like me are not the ones involved in all this stuff. So what are we talking about here, right? What are we looking at? We're not looking objectively, we're looking subjectively because we like taste so much. We're lusting. I'm lusting. So if I want power, right? I want money. I want power. I want this. That's why we have Donald Trump in president. That's why Donald Trump is the president. He's legitimately the reflection of everyone's ideology. Because if you're so pro-black that you hate white people, you're Donald Trump. But you won't believe that, right? If you're so pro-white people, you hate black people, yeah, you're still Donald Trump, right? You're exactly Donald Trump, right? But if I'm like Ecuadorian and I don't like another South America, like I'm wrong. Like, do we get it here? I'm like you're wrong with that, right? I can't. That's why he's there. We lust after money. He lusts for money. He's our reflection. We have to accept that. So, and we have to change, or or just get the fuck out. And I'm trying to do the latter, right? But that takes time and it takes manifestation. That's what I'm working on now. But we have to start to come to terms with these things, right? We have to start to realize that things aren't so much different than us. There's no difference between black and blue lives matter. All things matter. All things matter. That's it. All things. People can hate me all they want. But I believe there's been civil injustice. If you go on my Twitter, you can scroll down my Twitter. You can see how I feel about all these things throughout my whole life. Throughout my whole life, because I look at how I felt, and that's why I know I can talk about this. I know I've been objective. I know when I look at it, I've had compassion for all things. You can look in my astrology chart. I have a compassion for all these things. My moon and Mars are in Cancer in the 10th house. That means I feel like I want to nurture society. I want to nurture. I want to nurture. I want to protect. I know this because I know my astrology. But then I look at my astrology, I look at my Twitter, I go, whoa, what the fuck? I've been this. I have been this. All these problems I've had. My son, you look at my son, And I look at um, my Mercury, right? They're both in the eighth house. So I'm going to be uncovering some occult knowledge. I'm going to be communicating occult knowledge. But at the same token, I'm going to have issues with lust, right? Lust is going to be an issue. That was an issue. But I'm getting to the point where it's gone. I don't lust after things anymore. I don't care. Like, I just don't care about things. Do I follow? I don't even follow most celebrities unless you're really speaking some shit. I don't follow celebrities on social media. Why? Because that's gonna make me lust. I'm gonna be envious of these people. But who are they but manufactured things? Who are they? If you're wearing Gucci, you can't tell me you're wearing Gucci because it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. You can't tell me you're buying a $1 million car. It just doesn't make sense, right? So what are we associating ourselves with? What are we aligning ourselves with? Because we know that what we pay attention to, we make our reality. Once I put my eyes on it and I watch it, that becomes my reality. So in that sense, I have to be mindful of what my eyes are at. I got to maintain a diet of everything. When I say diet, I don't mean food. I mean literally what you're putting yourself into. Because when I watch you, you go into my brain. So if you're coming all the way into my mind, you're having intercourse with me, I gotta make sure what you're saying is real. So hold on. That would make half of the music that we listen to, like all the TV shows that we watch, wrong. Whoa, then I gotta sit back and be like, wait a second here. This is weird, right? This is weird. Why are these things happening like this? Why do these things make sense like this? Because they want you to associate with weird things. They want you to create separation. Because if I associate with only the finer materialistic things in life, if you come around wearing some no name shit, what are you to me? You're lesser. Well, we split you now. Now we split culture again, okay? So if you're a feminist and you're very heavy for women's rights, and I say that, yo, men don't have it that easy either right now. We're in separation again, right? You can see it just break. I'm a Democrat. I'm a progressive. I'm a conservative. I'm a I'm just fighting. Literally, they want you to fight. They want us to just argue because the more time that someone spends arguing with me on my page about something that I believe, the less time that they're actually focusing on how they're going to make themselves better, how they're going to do what they need to do, where they're going to go. And that's where it comes from. It comes from these notions of, yo, why are we thinking so much about the things that separate us instead of the things that bring us together? Why am I thinking so much about why I hate this notion, why I hate this ideology, why I hate this, when I think about how much I just love the fact that someone really trying to do something, right? I make this joke with people about when we go out and we talk about all these marches in Washington, right? Everyone's marching for a million different things, but what if we just all march together? Because literally, if it matters to you, it matters to me. Because I gotta deal with you. And if you're unhappy, then I'm gonna be unhappy. Right? Why does it suck to go to the DMV? Because no one's happy. Right? No one likes being at the DMV. That's the way we live life. So if I go out and every single person I see is unhappy about something in their life and unhappy and feeling like they're taken advantage of and da 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 da, is anyone gonna be happy? Are we gonna be able to find happiness? No, because I'm just gonna constantly look for things that make me more angry. But the second I say that, all of you are me, and I love, and my feelings and my heart is in every single thing that anyone thinks rationally about and makes a valid opinion for. If you make a valid, objective opinion about something, I accept you. I accept you for that. I have to. I have to. That's why I can't be with certain things. There's no valid, objective opinion to it. I can't be with it. I can't. And that's what's hard for me now. I know I'm back in the East Coast, right? I'm back around family, friends, all that. But I'm also worried. I'm also worried because I've come to a point where finally feel like I separated, right? I separated when I went to the West. And then when I was even in the West, I even separated from people I knew in the West, essentially. I only saw them once or twice. So I was able to just isolate. And the more I isolated, the more I started to look. Then I started to break down some of the knowledge that I had at that point. Then I started to look at where I was being hypocritical to the knowledge that I had. Whoa, wait a second, right? Wait a second. Now I'm being hypocritical of the knowledge I have. Why? Because I was so caught up in associating. I was trying to associate how to be happy based on association with what? Things that I watched, because I wasn't even being mindful of all the things I was taking in. The more things I take in, the more I'm associating. Then, like, no matter what knowledge you have, if my subconscious and I'm always giving my reality something that tells me opposite to things that I really know, my subconscious is what thinks, right? The percent neuroscience says we only get to make 5% of our decisions on a conscious level. The other 95 are subconscious decisions. Think about that. Only 5% of the things that you decide are actually your brain thinking. The other 95% are just you reacting based on neurological pathways you've already created. So if I never take time to retrain my subconscious, right? Retrain my neurological pathways, I am just going to be subconsciously acting on things all the time. But your brain, it's smart. It's smart because it does this thing called thank you for that. Right? Your brain will actually look back at a decision. So if I do something horrible, right? My brain is going to go do what's called backward reasoning, right? So once I made a decision in my subconscious mind, my brain will then create a reason for it. Why I did that, to make myself feel better, because there has to be a reason for these subconscious actions, right? So I'm stressed out, right? I go get a burger. I eat my burger. I say, oh, it's because I'm stressed out. Is it though? Did the food stop the stress? Did the food remove the stressor? I had that I've done that. I did that. Trust me. When I first got into this field, when I first started trying to bring my diet in and do all, boom, it happened to me. It happened to me. And I was sitting there like, oh, damn, why did I do this? Then I was sitting there like, oh, because I'm stressed. No. Then I just say, but that's when you have to go back in and reprogram yourself to go subconsciously. Subconscious, listen here, bro. You didn't need that burger. That shit didn't help you, right? Self, that shit didn't help me. That didn't change the stressor. My stressor is still there, right? So now that's it. Then you do that, you acknowledge, because that's all we have to do. Literally, all you have to do is go into your brain, acknowledge what you did wrong. Here's what I did wrong. Here's why it was wrong, right? Here's what I'm going to do next time. And then the next time it comes around, if you act on it, boop, you create a new neurological pathway. That's how it works. So when we talk about training diet, it's about training mind too. The more I watch things that are telling me, eating this is good, eating this is good, eating this is good, eating this is great, eating this, boom. And the more I like, yeah, okay, okay, okay. Then I start eating a little bit. I try it. I'm trying it. Then I start feeling good and I'm still watching. Okay, now I'm making it, I'm manifesting that, right? You're manifesting your diet, right? Just like how I'm trying to go to Costa Rica, right? So all I'm doing, I talk about Costa Rica. I have my journal here. I write about some of the things I'm going to do when I'm there, right? I watch videos in Costa Rica. I look up what the government's about in Costa Rica. I look up all these different things in Costa Rica. Now I'm doing all this shit, talking, living, boom. Now I'm manifesting it. I'm making it mine because I'm envisioning it to a point where I'm doing so much of conceptualizing it that it only has to be real. And that's when you manifest, is when you're doing and putting so much effort into something that it just has to happen. That shit has to happen, right? You always look at the people in life, the successful people are the people that go into something and push no matter how hard, right? And how many things are coming against them. But then at some point, it just happens because it has to. Because if not, reality wouldn't make sense. If you always put your 110% effort into something and worked and worked and worked and worked and never gave up, the day that you look back on everything finally, you'd be like, oh shit, I did it. But we just expect that at the end it's going to be like we ran through and like we get the confetti. No, the beauty was in all of that process, all of that work. Right? Now, I only got 10 seconds left. So I'm gonna wrap this up. This video is gonna be on YouTube. It's gonna be up here for a day. Go check the link to go see it. I love you guys. I love myself.